Hi, everyone. I'm Elaine Quijano. It's good to be with you. Thanks for joining us. The margins in key states remain tight as we wait for clarity on who will win the White House. Here is where the race stands right now. With 270 electoral college votes needed to win, Joe Biden leads with 253 to President Trump's 213. Pennsylvania is a must-win for the president. If Joe Biden takes the state, he wins the White House. The margin there is tight, less than 100,000 votes. Here is a live look at the vote count in Philadelphia as the head of Pennsylvania's election says the tabulation will continue tonight.
We're coming in the home stretch here. The counties have been working incredibly hard. Hundreds of thousands of ballots have been counted so far today, and we're in very good shape, but there's still some to count. So they are working incredibly hard. They're going to keep counting into the evening, and, stay tuned.
Caitlin Huey-Burns is back with us, as are Bo Erickson and Meridith McGraw. Caitlin is our CBSN political reporter following the vote count in Philadelphia. Bo is a CBS News campaign reporter covering the Biden campaign in Delaware. And Meridith is a White House reporter for Politico with us from Washington. I'm guessing collectively you all have probably gotten 0.5 hours of sleep these last 3 days. Caitlin, let me start with you. We heard there from the Secretary of State. What more did we learn?
Your guess about our sleep count is correct. We are watching the vote count here in Pennsylvania. And at this hour, I just refreshed the Secretary of State's website, and about 326,000 votes are left to be counted here in Pennsylvania. A couple of top lines coming from the Pennsylvania Secretary of State. Earlier, she was saying that they might have all the votes counted today. She didn't seem that optimistic about having all the votes counted by today, but they are working at a really furious pace. And the building right next to me is the Pennsylvania Convention Center. This is where all the votes for Philadelphia County are being counted. About 80,000 or so are left to be counted there. So that's where we're keeping an eye on. She also said that these votes that they're talking about that are being counted are ones that were received by Election Day. That is important. She also said that they are not anticipating a huge number arriving after Election Day. In the primary, she said ballots that were arriving after Election Day were about 60,000. Just so for context, she said this number would be much fewer than that. Why does that matter? Well, that's kind of the centerpiece that people are watching here in Pennsylvania, because the Supreme Court here, the state Supreme Court, said that ballots received up to 3 days after Election Day, which would be tomorrow, as long as they were postmarked by Election Day, would still be counted. That's something that Republicans have been pushing against. It went to the Supreme Court, got kicked back down, and the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, said they might take that up after Election Day. But these votes that we're talking about, they say, the Secretary of State said in that press conference, are ones received by Election Day. So the big headline, the big top line coming out of Pennsylvania today is, as the votes are being counted, the president's lead here is shrinking. That's because we're getting these mail-in and absentee ballots counted. These are all legally cast ballots. They're being counted. Earlier today, when we were on air earlier today, and coming tonight, the president's lead has been cut more than half. So that's significant. As the votes are being counted, Biden's numbers are improving here. About 78,000 votes at this hour separate President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. So keeping an eye on Pennsylvania and those 20 electoral votes. If Joe Biden is able to win this state, he wins the presidency. That's why the Trump campaign is so focused here on Pennsylvania. It's a must-win state for them.
All right, Meridith, with those as the stakes, we have now learned that President Trump is expected to speak at the White House in less than 30 minutes. So what should we expect? Do we have any idea?
Well, this was a last-minute update to the president's schedule, that he would be speaking from the press briefing room. We still don't know what exactly he'll be talking about. We have not seen President Trump since he gave those late-night remarks after Election Day, and he has been, in the meantime, making his voice heard on Twitter. Now, the Trump campaign is not going out here without a fight. They have dispatched their top advisors, Pam Bondi, Corey Lewandowski, among others, to Nevada, to Pennsylvania, to Arizona, to get out in front of TV cameras, but also to try to make the president's case in those states as they wage these legal challenges against the vote counts there. And the president has been agitating to get out in front of the cameras himself, I have been told from one official. We've seen more from Vice President Joe Biden than we've seen from the president, and he's been anxious to make his own voice heard. But in the meantime, today on Twitter, he's already been stepping on the messaging of his own campaign, saying that votes should stop being counted, which of course would essentially disenfranchise voters. But it also steps on, like I said, the messaging that his campaign is trying to convey as they make this last minute push to try to wage these legal battles in states where the vote count is getting more and more narrow.
And Meridith, as we continue to speak here, we are watching, of course, the live picture out of the James Brady briefing room in the West Wing there of the White House. Meridith, I'm curious if you have received any guidance as to whether reporters will be asking questions. Is the president expected to take questions from journalists during these remarks?
That's a great question. The president has used the press briefing room to make remarks and, of course, take questions from reporters. But we really never know. It's always up to the president, even when some of his aides will say that we should expect him to take questions. Sometimes at the last minute, he'll change his mind and just walk back into the White House.
All right, we will wait to see how that unfolds. Meridith, according to the New York Times, the Justice Department told federal prosecutors that armed federal officers are allowed in ballot counting locations to investigate potential voter fraud. Why is this a priority for the DOJ, and are there what concerns are there about it?
Well, a DOJ official, it was reported, said that this was done so that states, local areas would be prepared in the case that there were any disruptions. But what this really is sending a message to critics say that sending these federal agents to ballot places is a way of intimidating. And it is a felony for federal agents to be in these ballot places. That is against the law, unless there is a specific reason. And the Department of Justice giving the okay for agents to go there it does send a specific message from them, especially when we have seen the DOJ step in when it was sending federal agents to Lafayette Park, for example, when the president went over there for a photo op and clearing out protesters. And so there is a potential for it to have a chilling effect, is what critics would say, by allowing these agents to be there.
Well, Bo, you're covering the Biden campaign. We see those tight margins in several states now. Is there a particular state that they're watching that they think could break for them first?
Well, welcome back to the Wilmington waiting game. We're doing a good job at it right now. To answer your question, they do not know which state is going to break first in their favor. Today, and through my conversations, what I've been calling people on the campaign, they're saying they don't even care what state breaks in their favor. They just want it to break because everyone's been waiting around. But there has been a lot of confidence being talked about all throughout the day. In Pennsylvania specifically, they think they're going to win by a sizable amount. In Georgia, they think the state now leans to Vice President Biden. So not quite as confident as Pennsylvania, but it's a leaning to him. And then in Arizona, it was said that they think they are going to win by tens of thousands of votes in Arizona. And that's very interesting because they're looking at their internal numbers plus what we are all seeing of the returns specifically. And at the very last thing I'll say here is that the importance of this is that Joe Biden is just hanging out there right now at his house. He just got back there. And I was told that by one source that he is at ease while waiting. There's a lot of anxiousness here in Wilmington. Maybe that's just from the press, but Joe Biden, I hear, is doing good at it.
No, America is anxious, Bo. I believe that is not just limited to members of the press. So we heard, Bo, earlier in the show, Joe Biden say that he's confident he'll emerge as the victor once the votes are counted. Very specific language. Why?
This specific language is to try to bring down that anxiousness a little bit. And also, I was told he's trying to make this public face as well in the face of what the Trump campaign is doing. There's a lot of political theater, the campaign says. But you just don't have to take Joe Biden's word for it. Throughout my calls, I was actually talking to a Republican national pollster today, and he said that they are rerunning their numbers and that the Team Biden numbers, they said, are spot on right now. And so there is some recognition, even across the aisle, that Joe Biden is continuing to wait, and they say that he will be declared the president whenever one of these states breaks.
Yeah, that's really illuminating context there, Bo. An important point to note that when you have that kind of acknowledgement across the aisle, that is something that certainly factors into all of what we're watching unfold. Meridith, this afternoon, former White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney made a prediction for President Trump's future if he loses this race. Let's watch that clip.
After this election is over, who is the leading Republican candidate for 2024? And I think now folks are starting to realize, wait a second, if Donald Trump loses, he might be the guy. And I'm telling you, absolutely. I would absolutely expect the president to stay involved in politics and would absolutely put him on the short list of people who are likely to run in 2024. He doesn't like losing.
All right, win or lose, what impact have President Trump and his allies made on the Republican Party?
Well, President Trump is a wild card, and I think the former chief of staff is correct to say that he is here to stay, and Trumpism really is here to stay. Although I will say it is notable that Mulvaney is talking about President Trump running in 2024. That's not something a winning candidate or his party talks about, running in 2024. But I've been doing a lot of reporting on what's next for the Republican Party and how this White House is envisioning a potential loss and what's to come, especially for the Trump family. I spoke with people who are close to Don Jr., Ivanka Trump, and others about their potential role in the Republican Party. And even if the president loses, they are going to continue to be a force. It was notable that just a few hours ago, Don Jr. sent out an alarm to Republicans on Twitter who hadn't come to the defense of his father. And it only took 20 minutes or so for some of the 2024 potential candidates like Nikki Haley and like Senator Tom Cotton to come to the president's defense. And I was told that Don Jr., even though he has no plans to run in 2024, he's going to continue to play the role as a kind of kingmaker for the Republican Party. So even though some in the party might not want to hear that the president is going to continue to be a force, and his family will as well, that's just not the reality here. As we saw, especially from the results in this election, the president does have a strong following, a strong base, and he's going to continue to wield that, win or lose.
Wow, it is really fascinating to hear those political calculations being made and that time frame that you talked about, Meridith, of people then coming in to defend President Trump. So, Caitlin, it was just about 24 hours or so ago that we were talking to you there outside of the convention center in Philadelphia, and we could hear helicopters, we could hear demonstrations, and we saw images of peaceful demonstrations taking place, not just where you are, but also in New York City. I wonder what the scene is like there tonight. What have you seen?
Well, Elaine, I'm on the other side of the convention center, so really just down the street from where I've been talking to you all week. We're right outside Reading Terminal Market for those familiar with it. Great Reuben sandwiches, if I can recommend what I've been eating this week. Behind me, though, you'll see there's a lot of music playing earlier today. It was a really interesting scene and something that I think really kind of shows you where we are at this moment and the way in which Philadelphia has become kind of the center stage coverage for this election and the vote count as they're counting the votes in this building right next to me. On one side earlier today, you had demonstrators urging and chanting, "Count the vote." On the other side, you had supporters of the president standing outside with Trump flags saying, "Don't steal this election." And they were literally divided by, you know, those metal bike racks. And it was just a really illuminating scene, I think. Now, of course, counting the vote is key to having these elections. So just want to reiterate that. Now, at this hour, it seems like the Trump supporters have left, and it has now become a scene of demonstrators playing music, holding count the vote flags and signs. And so we'll kind of keep an eye on this tonight in Philadelphia.
All right, we are going to continue to watch it all. Caitlin Huey-Burns, Bo Erickson, and Meridith McGraw. And for the record, Caitlin, I second that. Reading Terminal Market is amazing, and lots of amazing sandwiches there to be had. Okay, thank you.